Hi guys, welcome back to Cine Club. As you probably already know, I am Maria, and this is the place where we watch movies that have recently come out and I review them for you. And the movie that I saw this week was The Giver. I have to say, I've been waiting for this movie for quite a while because I'm a big fan of the book. It's one of my favorites. And I also knew it was going to be really hard for me to separate watching the movie from what I know about the book. It's two different experiences, I always know that, but I knew it was going to be hard for me to be completely objective. But that being said, I always believe that a movie adapted from a book should be able to stand on its own 2 feet. I don't like it when people say, well, you probably should have read the book to understand that. You should be able to appreciate the story and the characters whether you have read the book or not. That is the job of the movie. But before I keep rambling on, let me tell you what the movie is about. So The Giver was set in a society where people have found a way to be equal. Everybody's the same, everybody's as important as each other, and everybody has their roles in life. So in the ceremony where Jonas is about to know the role he is going to play in his society, he finds out he has been chosen for a very honorable role, which is the role of the receiver of memory. That means Jonas will be able to receive all the memories from the past, from history, that the society is not aware of. So when there's a time to make a very important decision, they can turn to Jonas and Jonas will know the answers. So Jonas will soon find out that his utopian society is not as perfect as it seems, and there might be some crimes and some darkness hidden really deep underneath. Now, even though the movie did take much from the book, there were some things that they changed, and I felt like there was no need to change whatsoever. For example, Jonas and his friends are supposed to be 12 in the book, and it makes sense because it's a coming of age story, the ceremony and everything. It just makes sense to transition for Jonas. In this movie, Jonas and his friends are much older, and even if they're trying to play them like they are younger, they just look so grown up. For example, the main actor looks very manly and masculine, and even though you can tell he's very young, it just doesn't really play well, in my opinion. The reason I don't like that is because I knew the moment they were going to make them older, they were going to try to insert this very forced romantic thing between him and his friend Fiona. Now in the book, he does care for Fiona and he starts fixating on her, he likes her, but there is by no chance this romantic involvement between the two of them, and it just felt really forced. Even in the movie, it just feels like it doesn't belong there. If there is something I liked about the book, it's that you can understand the feelings Jonas has for her, but he doesn't really know how to act upon them. He doesn't really know what to do. He just knows he cares for her, and that is enough. Like, it's interesting enough that you don't have to develop it into anything else. I feel like they just tried to add so much of all these other characters that are not super important in the book, but they want to make them secondary big characters in the movie. And in the end, I feel like that's what happens with the entire movie. They just try to cram in all these things that are not part of the book that you kind of imagine are happening, and you will realize that maybe they did happen in a sequel, but it doesn't feel right. And in the end, I felt like I was watching a story that was very similar to the story I liked, but it was missing what made it great. I can completely understand why they added so much that wasn't part of the book, because even when I read the book and heard there was going to be a movie, I felt like maybe the story would not be translated well to a movie. There's just something about it that you don't feel like it would make a great, whole-rounded movie. Because the story is so short and it mainly happens between Jonas and the Giver, you don't feel like maybe the movie would feel very wholesome, and I do believe that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to add all these different elements so it felt like you were watching a complete movie. But in my opinion, I feel like the result was the movie was trying to be way too much like the teen adult genre that everybody's used to. Divergent, Hunger Games, all this kind of stuff, which is very futuristic. There's always some kind of romance triangle or romance problem, and it's set in, you know, a very dystopian, futuristic time. And while The Giver does have a few of those elements, it's by no means that futuristic looking. I don't remember a single time in the book where you felt like you were in a very distant future. You know it's in the future because you know something bad has happened that has made the society become what they are. But it doesn't look like it. It's very simple looking. Everybody's exactly the same. So that whole futuristic theme of the houses and the motorcycles and the planes, it felt like I was watching something else. So what I think happened in production is that they were trying to make it very much like the teen adult genre that everybody's so crazy about, and they try to make it be something that it's not. So it's not going to be as popular as the teen adult genre movies that everybody likes, and now the fans of the book are not going to like the movie because you try to make it into something that is not what they know. So it feels like the movie's trying to be like that cool person in the party, and it just not work out, and then its friends are being like, why are you being weird? This is not the way you are. And so nobody's gonna like the movie because it's neither the thing that it originally was, nor it really belongs with the cool group. Did that make sense? it totally makes sense in my head. I don't know if it makes sense for you. So in the end, I think that's a mistake. They were trying to make it into the teen adult formula and it didn't really work out, and now the people who are really big fans of the book are not going to be happy with it either. Which is a real pity because I think the movie was directed beautifully. The cinematography was exactly the way I wanted it to be. The importance of the lack of color in the beginning and how it is slowly incorporated throughout the movie, they handle that perfectly, and I was worried they weren't going to do that. It's such an important theme of the movie, and I really liked how they managed that. It's also incredibly artistic looking for a teen adult genre movie. I love the shots that they took. There were a lot of close-ups. I love the scenery. I think that was very well done. And that's why it's a pity that they didn't try to maintain the original format of the movie, because it would have turned out great. Because what happens is you feel like you're watching something that has potential, but it's just lacking the meaningful essence that it used to have. The story is really good. The story is so much more meaningful than the Hunger Games story, than Divergent, than any of those stories. It's really philosophical. It's really relevant, I think, to our times. It feels like it's not such a distant future to what we live in. It doesn't feel so far off. It doesn't feel like fantasy. It feels like something that maybe could happen to us one day. And I like that. I like the debate of whether we should be allowed to have our emotions, whether we as human beings in our natural state end up ruining everything, or do we really need to be controlled in order to survive? And so when you watch the movie, you think, yeah, they're doing everything that's in the book, but it doesn't have that feeling. And eventually I feel like that's what happens with every important scene of the book as it is translated into a movie. There are like 3 really big scenes in the book where you are shocked as to know what's happening next and what's going on, and I don't feel that in the movie at all. As they reveal certain things, you're just like, oh well, okay. Like, they just rush by so fast. I wish they would have let it marinate. I wish they would have just let it be for a second and you can capture the expressions in the actors, something, but it just feels like, well, none of this matters, let's just keep going, and so you don't end up caring about it. If I could have had it my way, I would have loved to see a very indie movie about this story, because then I feel like you would get it. It doesn't matter if it doesn't have a love interest, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit slow, it doesn't matter if it ends abruptly, it just matters that you get what it means. And I would have loved that. I would have loved it if it was just more simple, if it was just the way it was meant to be. And I don't care if not anybody would like it, and I don't care if it wasn't going to be a big hit, but I would have loved to have seen them be a bit more true to what it was than trying to make it something that it's not. So if I had to rate this movie, guys, I would tell you that The Giver is good to watch maybe on Netflix. However, I do recommend that you read the book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I think I've read it about 4 times. And I'm always surprised by it. The writing is so exquisite. Yes, I said exquisite. And to me, the story and the writing is far superior than The Hunger Games, than Twilight. I really do think you should give it a shot. Like, don't be discouraged by the movie. The book is incredibly good. But guys, that's everything I have to say about The Giver. Tell me, what did you think about the movie? If you like this review, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. That is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe as well, because I got a new movie review every week for you, and sometimes a few movie talks. And you know, when we gather around and we talk about all our favorite movies and stuff like that. Don't forget that you can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram if you want to see a little bit more of what I'm doing in my daily life. But for now, that is everything for this episode of Cine Club. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you on our next movie date. Bye!